Ladies, come here. They are doing it.
Damn, it's Patrick Lane.
It's all right now.
That's what I'm talking about.
He sure is funny. I know that.
This is where the party at.
Patches is Patches 2-week-old collard greens. Kind of extra meat in it.
All right now.
Do it, honey.
He always wearing them Japanese burger shoes.
Get down, Patrick Lamb.
Patrick.
Welcome out. We have a very special guest today. You're listening to a track produced by my good friend, Mr. Darrin Ron. Hey, everybody. How are you? Welcome out to Studio Live at 7. This is my studio. I'm so grateful if you're joining me today. We have an absolutely fabulous guest. I'm the hugest fan. I know he has so many fans, but I am a just enormous fan of this person, and I got to tell you a little bit give him an official intro. He's well, first of all, he's just a good friend of mine, and he has over 20. Excuse me one second. Let me set my horn down here. I have to really get seated in order to tell you about him. He has over 25 number one singles and multi-Grammy nominations over the last 11 years as an artist, producer, and mixing engineer. He's become urban jazz's premier sonic architect, kind of a go-to guy for established genre greats, and he has recent collaborations with pretty much everybody in the business. Recently with Dave Koz, working on his one of his last projects, and also up and comers like myself. So looking for their next surefire hit. He's a British Columbia-born, Denver-based saxophonist who launched his solo career with his record Soulful in 2004, and he has just an incredible track record of success. But, he's always been looking for something a little bit more meaningful than just a few instantly infectious, smashes, which he has like this many. Anyway, he's really has the desire to launch his second decade as an innovative powerhouse by creating music in its truest voice, straight from the heart, and is perfectly in line with the label's, his label's unique mission, which is really just to let artists make their authentic music, beyond the trappings of formulas and commercial considerations. So, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome my good friend, Mr. Darrin Ron. Darrin, how are you, man? Welcome to the show. Is that what I have now? I have a show.
I'm great.
I guess anybody can have a show now. I'm so grateful for you. You just spending some time with me. This afternoon.
Man, thanks for having me, Patrick. Yeah. Thanks for having me, man. It's great to be here.
Yeah, I have so much admiration and respect for you as an artist and a producer. And you've got to be one of the kindest, most consistent, easiest people to work with that I have ever had the pleasure of working with. And, I say that as somebody who I've worked with a few people. I have. And,
wow.
and after knowing you so long, I've come to the conclusion that it's absolutely authentic.
Oh, that's awfully kind of you, Patrick. I'm so blessed to work with so many great people. And, of course, you're one of them. You're so ridiculously talented, brother, and it's great to hang with you here.
Thank you so much. Well, so you've been very vocal about your walk in faith and your beliefs, but we are all keenly aware that there's a lot of people of faith who don't demonstrate such the attributes that you demonstrate. How do you maintain such a consistent temperament in this industry with all the personalities?
Wow. Man, I think whatever I do by God's grace, and I've had my ups and my downs, and I've had my good times and my bad times, and I think probably over the years, I think I've just hit a point in my life where you spend enough time around potential drama, and that's really not my that's not my wheelhouse, man. I'm not into it. I love friendships, relationships, collaborations, people coming together. And so I just try to spend as much time in that area of my life as possible. And, but like I said, man, we've all had our ups and downs, man. I have many things in my life I'm not proud of, but whatever good has come out of it, I give God the glory for that.
Right on. Well, during this time, which of course it's a cliche now to even say that it's unprecedented because it is unprecedented. But what do you think is a takeaway for you? I know we can't speak for everybody, but what for you? What has this time out, if you will, where it's been like God sit down and take a time out. What have you garnered from this or learned from this time out that we have?
I'm probably still learning. It's hard to wrap your brain around what's going on right now. It really is unprecedented, and at the same time, there's many many that, I mean, so many of us will talk about our faith, we'll talk about our beliefs, we'll talk about the things that are important to us, and then something like this happens and it becomes reality. And then I guess we have the choice of and the opportunity to put our money where our mouth is. And I think during this time, um, I think about it's probably not too unlike when I was a little kid, and if I got in trouble, mom and dad would put me in the corner. And I'm not saying anyone got us in trouble here, but we've been quarantined, we've been put on lockdown, so I think we've been given a very, very unique thing in human history here. And so we have to decide what we're going to do with that. Are we going to fight it? Are we going to allow the worst to come out of us or the best to come out of us? And the one thing that really I think is powerful about this time is that we're all in it together. I mean, there's no one, probably for the first time in modern human history, there's no one that's immune from this. I mean, this affects everyone in every country across the world. I was talking to our friend Dave Cause about a week and a half ago, and he said, it's weird, Darrin. He said, tonight, there's not a single band on any stage in the world right now. It's like the first time in human history. And so, we face this time, and so what are we going to do with it? And I guess the thing that keeps coming back to me is we can let our frustrations, our concerns, our stresses, our fear, that can be what comes out of us, or we can allow love, peace, encouragement to come out of us. And I think, honestly, us coming together and helping one another is what's going to make the biggest difference.
Haven't you found that this has been one of the most interesting times? I find that I'm reaching out to people and other across the world, actually, more than there's just something about, I know you can relate, because you be careful what you wish for, because I wish to be playing 150, 200 events a year, and I have been up until now. And what happens with that psychology a little bit is that, you get focused on the next thing, and then you forget to do maybe the important things versus just the next thing. So, and what's interesting is I've known you for, do you remember when we first met, or do you remember how we met? No, I know it wasn't.
You know what? I'm trying to remember. It's been a minute. Maybe what, 8 or 9 years, 10 years, somewhere along there.
So we played together. If you remember, back when I was promoting concerts at Jimmy Mac's, and it was still
of course,
going, which
yeah,
was crazy.
Yeah.
So that was in 2014.
Okay.
And then I'm just kind of going over a couple things. Then you produced Savoir Faire for me in 2014, which was made number 5 for me. That's huge. I know there's lots of artists out there that have 50 number 1 hits like you and a bunch of amazing people. But for me, that was a giant leap for me. And and then you also produced, let's see, it was Savoir Faire in 2014, and then Limitless in let's see, 2017. So yeah, and we have a lot of kind of mutual friends too. I know before you and I met a bunch of your Portland friends at various different music events. Some of them played with me, guys like Anthony Jones and Eldon Jones and there's a lot of Joneses in Portland. Ben Jones. There's
a big crew.
They're all talented, and they all just.
I might have to change my last name,
off.
Jones.
Me too. I think.
My name is Darrin Jones, and I'm from Portland.
Oh, yeah, a lot of talented people here for sure, and I'm a huge fan of Eldon's and Anthony's and Ben's playing. They're just really great. I know they've worked with you in your band also, right? Yeah,
when I've played with them. Anthony played on one of my albums, and when I'm up in the Northwest playing, Sometimes I'll have Ben or Anthony, play with me, and of course Eldon and I have done a couple. We've done one or two gigs together, and so yeah, you guys have a great crew, great people out of Portland there.
Yeah, Anthony's been performing. He was performing with Pink Martini for a long time, and his whole family's doing really well. So, I was gonna ask you what do you enjoy most doing now? Now that everything is completely different.
For me, the big change, like you said, was gigs. The gigs, of course, have come to a standstill right now. But if you take that part of it away, and the travel that's associated with the gigs, and you're on the road a lot more than I am. I mean, you're doing like 300 gigs a year. For me, it's always been a balance between what I do here at home and being out on the road. And when my kiddo was born, he's 14 now. But when he was born, I just kind of decided, I really love playing, but I don't want to miss that, his childhood. I don't want to miss it. And so I started kind of doing, I probably amped up my production and my mixing a bit more during that time. And so a lot of that kind of remains. So when this all happened, I was in a pretty busy time working on my new album, working on, 6 or 7 projects for other people. And it's been a rat race. And you were talking earlier about what has changed so much in our world. I mean, we live, any of us that are in the industry or even just working. My wife's a teacher. Lives tend to be a bit of a rat race these days. They're so busy and always on the go. And so to kind of be forced to slow down a little bit, I think has been good for me in the studio. I've been trying, one kind of takeaway that I've tried to implement while I'm working here is to try to scale things back by about 50%. It was so crazy.
Well,
and
mission accomplished.
being that busy can be really stressful. And so now in this time where things have slowed down a little bit, I've thought, I don't know if or when I'll ever have the opportunity to spend with my family that I do right now. Mm. And so I want to make sure and not miss out on that. And so I've been very busy in the studio, but I probably cut back my hours by about 40-50% here for the last 3 or 4 weeks. And before too long, it'll ramp up again. So I'm enjoying the slower pace for now.
Great. We got a lot of great people on board watching and listening. Al Turner, I don't know if you're a fantastic bass player.
Yeah. He and I, we've been talking for a minute wanting to work together. So hopefully that's going to happen here before too long.
Yeah, and I've been working with you since it seems like way back. It's funny how time goes. That's just a big issue for me now. It's like, again, just being careful what you wish for, because, in other words, balancing, what's in front of you versus and the work versus what's really important out of my life right now. Mm-hmm. And if there was ever a time, I think to dig into that in particular, I think the time would be now. Would you agree?
I totally agree. Hey, Jeff Kasha was on the feed now. Another great saxophonist.
Oh, he's absolutely phenomenal. What a another just absolutely positive and professional and extremely
great guy,
successful.
Great player.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. And I was going to ask you. It's interesting because I've known you for a long time, but I haven't actually ever asked you these kind of radio questions, and I guess I could have watched some other radio session or something to find out the answer. But how did you get a start doing what it is that you do and become so good at it? Did you go to an engineering school, or did you just from the college of the streets and how to make ends meet?
It was a really unexpected turn for me. I went to school for saxophone, classical and jazz. I got my master's degree in classical saxophone and jazz pedagogy. And then I was kind of en route to teach university.
And for those who don't know, what pedagogy is, what
jazz pedagogy would the study of jazz, teaching jazz. So, that's everything from ensemble playing to composition to, some arranging, a lot of big band jazz combos, and improvisation, but teaching that stuff at a college level. And I just really, I was actually a year into my doctorate when I stepped away from school. I felt really deep in my heart like I was supposed to pursue getting into the music industry, and it was a long journey that started here in Denver. And after doing music self-employed for about 13, 14 years, I had a connection. I sent some music out to some record labels, and a couple days later, I got a phone call from Dave Koz. And he said, "Hey, Darrin, this is Dave Koz." I said, "Oh, hey, Dave." I thought at first maybe it was a joke, but he had heard the music. He had started his small label, and he said, "Hey, we'd love for you to come to California. We want to meet you." And so I went out there, and they were looking at signing me, and they were a small label at the time. They had actually just signed Michael Langton. And I met with them, and they loved the music, they loved the record, but they said, "Hey, Darrin, we just signed a couple young artists, and we don't, we're a small label, we don't have any more room, and we're sorry, but we love your music, but we can't sign you right now. But, would you mind telling us more about what you did on these recordings?" He said, "Who wrote the music?" And I said, "Well, I wrote it." And they said, "Well, who produced it?" And I said, I produced it." And they said, "Well, who mixed it?" I said, "Well, I mixed it at home." And they said, "Oh, well, if we had some production work for you, would you take it?" And so I took it, and little did I know, that night they overnighted my record to Wayman Tisdale.
Wow,
and
what a story. What a
they
fantastic...
had just signed Wayman for his Hang Time record. And they said, "We've got Wayman, we just signed him. We overnighted your record. He loves it. We're looking for one more song for his record." And we were really hoping for a big radio hit, and we had some discussion of some cover tunes, and so we decided on "Ain't No Stopping Us Now." And 3 days later, I was back in their office meeting Wayman. They offered me the gig, and I produced that song, and 9 weeks later, it was #1 on Billboard. So that's how this all started. I didn't have any plans to become a producer. For me, as a saxophonist, that was really my main thing. Still, to this day, saxophone is my main thing. But I'm so grateful that opportunity popped up, because, now we look at this time with coronavirus, and we're all stuck at home, and I realized, wow, I think God was looking out for me, because even though I've had great opportunities as a performer, and great opportunities still ahead of me as a performer, the production and mixing and mastering and writing and a number of these things have created kind of alternate revenue streams for me that have really helped, provide for my family, especially during this time.
Wow, what a fantastic story. And how, which takes me to my next question. You're such an incredible player. You're constantly on the charts and just play so soulfully and beautifully. And how do you balance those two things between being a producer and a player? And is one of those more important than the other?
I think ultimately music, it comes from within, right? And so when I was younger, probably there was a lot of overthinking that happened in both arenas, as a player and as a producer. So back then there might have been a little battle between, okay, when are you in producer mode, or when are you in artist mode? But I think these days, I've come to grips with the importance of letting things be what they're supposed to be, and so that includes my playing, and it includes production ideas. So I think they're pretty well balanced these days. But there's times where the artist thing pops forward, or I'll be playing a track, and all of a sudden the producer will say, "Darrin, slow down. That's too much. You don't need to let the whole cat out of the bag right now." So Yeah. Depends on the day, I guess.
How did things change for you after that first single? Like after the hit with
The thing
Wayman?
with Wayman,
Hmm.
you know, I'm gonna talk a little bit about my faith right now. When I was in school, working on my doctorate, I felt, there's those times in life where you feel things deeply in your heart. And I know for me in my life, when I get that sense of something like, gosh, I think I'm supposed to do this, or something's eating me inside, or it's kind of really heavy on my heart, oftentimes I think, that's probably God trying to get my attention, trying to maybe point my way a little bit, and I felt that this real deep desire while I was working on my doctorate to leave school and try to start getting into the music industry. And it was a really odd thing because I was a year away from my doctorate degree. I was set up to be, I was set up to be. I mean, I had job offers waiting for me, and I thought, well, I guess if I'm feeling it this deeply in my heart, I better listen and I better go try it. And so I took the leap of faith and did it. And so after I took that leap of faith, it was just 10 years of man work, and you know what I mean. Like any gig I could get to make ends meet, and I was people would call me up and have me write charts for their bands, recording, producing, playing gigs. It was real grunt work for about 10 years, and then for so long I thought, gosh, this. I felt in my heart like I was supposed to do this, but it doesn't seem like it's happening. And then that opportunity came with Wayman, and then it started to make sense. I thought, oh, okay, all these different skills that I've been grinding away with for 10 or 12 years now, they now all come into play in this kind of singular moment. And the beautiful thing about that gig was it wasn't just producing, it wasn't just mixing. Wayman let me play on it. A lot of his tunes, he let me take solos. He let me be an artist while I was producing. And after that song, the phone started ringing. It never stopped ringing. Um,
And you guys
I,
became
I,
great friends too through that
best
process,
of
right?
friends,
Just
yeah.
best friend. You had a very really close
Hmm.
friendship, and he was very just an. I never got a chance to meet him or know him, but very encouraging individual.
He was, yeah, so amazing. He was, we had such a good time together, and that music happened so naturally. I mean, it was not contrived. We when he passed, of course, that was an extremely painful time. But I remember his record label calling me and saying, "Can you send me any outtakes of stuff that didn't end up on the record? Like, did you
Can you
guys
send
have
us
some
anything
songs?"
that sounds anything
Yeah.
remotely like that?
Well, just
Fantastic.
they were they
Yes.
were they were putting together a tribute, and Wayman worked with a lot of people, and there were, I think, quite a few people that had tracks that didn't make records. Good stuff, good material. But they came and asked me, and I didn't have anything because everything we worked on ended up on the records, and we didn't we didn't we didn't plan it, we didn't scheme it, we just kind of got together and did music, and it just happened naturally.
Wow. Well, and take us forward into the future after that. So after after things started percolating, and what were some of your biggest projects that you worked on since then? If you had your few of your favorite or biggest,
Well,
take your pick.
it's been an interesting journey because I mean I've had the opportunity to work with most everyone in smooth jazz. At this point, whether I've produced them or I've tracks that they play on have crossed my desk to mix. I've probably had a chance to work with almost everyone in the genre now, which blows my mind. I mean, so many people that I grew up listening to. Of course Wayman, but like Najee and Dave Koz and meeting people like Kirk Whalum and Gerald Albright and Huge Groove and Steve Cole and but guys I've produced, I mean Wayman, Dave Koz, Eric Darius, Tim Bowman, those have been some great highlights, and a lot of young artists that have never had songs on the radio before that came to me and we got to work together, and people ended up digging it, and they got their first songs on Billboard, and some of them got their first number ones. Guys like Riley Richard, my friend Gregory Goodlow here in Denver. Gosh, so many people. Ron McMillan. There's so many. I can't even begin to think of all of them. But I take equal pride. It's not just about, the most famous people, and I think that balance of it's just good people, whether they're established or whether they're new, getting the opportunity to work with good people and try to create something that works for them. That brings me a lot of joy.
Wow. And do we have any questions out there from people for Darrin that are here on the blog here? If you have some questions, we're going to take a minute. And while we're doing that, Darrin, what do you think that you haven't done that you would like to do?
Oh man, I don't really have a wish list. The best things in my career have always come unexpected, and so I'm kind of at that point where I just want to let that. I want to let that stuff happen, enjoy it as it comes. Every musician dreams of winning a Grammy. Every musician, dreams of being on big stages with great sound and great sound systems, and I like all that stuff. So I welcome whatever comes my way. But man, that's a good question. I love creating music. I love creating music both live and in the studio. So I'll just jump at the opportunity when that comes.
Well, life is kind of like a solo, right? Or, I like to say you practice very, very hard, learn all the rudiments, all the structure, and then that gives you the freedom to do whatever it is that you want to do when it's time to solo. 'Tis life, right?
It is.
So
It
just
is indeed.
just do the work, and which is something I love about you. It's a willingness to just consistently do what we should be doing, and then it's amazing how things come to you if you're just willing to keep stepping, right? Don't you think?
Yeah. Who knows what's next? I mean, for me, music, the best music and my favorite times have been moments of real connection, moments of great relationships, and establishing those kind of relationships in the industry. Things that are totally unexpected. Case in point, last year I had the huge blessing of working with Dave on his Christmas CD, Dave Koz, and we've done a lot of stuff together over the years, and we just have a good time hanging out. Then when it comes time to do the music, we enjoy that even more. And so, I did this album for him, and I got to work with so many great musicians, with Dave and Jonathan Butler, Michael Langton, and Chris Walker, Matt Cuson, Melissa Manchester, and finished the project. Was very, very, had a great time, enjoyed it, got it done, and then, a couple months later, I get a phone call from Melissa Manchester's manager saying, "We're really happy with the way the feature turned out on Dave's record, and yeah, we'd like to have you produce redo a couple of Melissa's classic hits."
Wow.
And so, wow, how cool is that? A totally unexpected, out of left field, and of course we're on lockdown now, but we're planning on moving forward with that when things start to get. When the industry starts to rebound a little bit, when we're all back working. So, yeah, things like that, you never know. Live, I love playing live, had some great collaborations. I've had some really unexpected stuff come my way. Year and a half ago, I got called to mix a song for Kirk Franklin. So anyone who knows gospel music knows Kirk's,
What song was that, and how can people go look for it on iTunes?
The song is called "Get Together," and it's a remake of an old song from, was it the 60s or the 70s? And Kirk did that with Estelle and there was a Jamaican rapper on the tune and a violinist, and that was for the BET Soul Train Awards.
Oh my gosh, how many tracks?
About a year and a half ago.
Just in engineering, like how many actual tracks were in that session?
In that session? Oh man, there was probably 140, yeah. So, and 140 after the producer had already pre-mixed some of the elements and some of the background vocals. So yeah, probably 130, 140 tracks. That was an overnight. They needed it mixed and mastered and delivered 24 hours later. So it was crazy, but it was so much fun. Really, really happy with how it turned out. But I would have never thought in a million years that I'd have the opportunity to do something for Kirk Franklin. I was working on Tim Bowman's last record, and he sent me a song to mix. He didn't tell me who was on it. I'm listening to it, and I'm thinking, this voice sounds really familiar. I'm sitting here putting this voice through all the gear and trying to make it sound great. And I sent the mix to Tim, and he loved it. And he called me back a few days later. He goes, Darrin, he goes, man, I just want to tell you, Stokely's manager called, and he really loves the mix, man. He loves what you did with his voice. And so thinking, wow, I just got to mix Stokely from, I listened to him growing up, man. So
That's
I love that
fantastic.
stuff.
I got a question for you online here from Al Turner. He said,
Mhm.
"How do both of you approach a songwriting?" So go for it.
Oh man. Well, I think it depends on the artist, and it depends on, sometimes people are in like a mode where they're just willing to explore. They don't have any particular end game. They just kind of want to explore and create. And so, I would create that situation. Just yeah, kind of fly by the seat of your pants. Sit there with the person, come up with ideas, build the creativity, see where it takes you. Other times, someone may come to you with an idea. Um, but ultimately, I'd say usually the music kind of tells you where to go. If it's not working, you're probably maybe trying too hard. Um, if I sit down and I'm really struggling through something, I'm probably overthinking it.
And a lot of people
So I
don't
tend
know.
to.
A lot of people don't know that you have significant keyboard skills too. So,
Mm.
I mean, there's only one Stevie Wonder. Somebody who could just play and sing and do everything.
I'm not Stevie Wonder.
Yeah.
I'm definitely not Stevie Wonder.
But Darrin can play. He plays keyboard. Do you sing too? Do you sing?
No, you won't hear me sing a solo, no.
Hmm.
I've done some background vocals and stuff, but I always tell my clients when I have singers in the studio, I say, listen, if you don't get your part, you're going to have to hear me sing it to you. So that's your motivation for getting it right the first time, then they don't have to hear me sing. But in all honesty, writing songs, oftentimes, for me, it starts with a groove. Some people hear the song in their head and it just kind of comes out. For me, usually it starts with a groove, then some sort of a chord structure, and oftentimes while I'm working on the chord structure, melody ideas kind of start floating through my head. So that's how it normally works for me. Other people I know, they might hear a melody in their head and go the other way around. And once in a blue moon that happens to me, but usually it's the other way. How about you, Patrick? What's your general approach?
For me, it's saxophone playing. I mean, I've come up playing straight ahead jazz and all kinds of stuff. But for me, it's all about singing. Like from your heart. I know that sounds very simplified, but so I tend to start with the melody and a beat. So I kind of come at it from that side, and then I fill
Okay.
then I fill in the middle.
Fill in the harmonies around it.
Yeah, I mean that's I've I'm I play some drums. I've got we all have an inner drummer, but I that's kind of how it comes together. I have a melody and then the beat, and then I harmonize to make a lamb sandwich.
Nice.
Something like that. Yeah. So I want to see if there's any other questions from our viewers. Franklin's get together is awesome. Kathleen Horn says. Reed Anderson. Hey, I can't thank you enough. I could talk to you for another few hours, but I'm sure you have some projects you'd like to get to. Is there anything else you'd like to share with the audience here?
Yeah.
before-
A couple. I'd like to share two things. First of all, just to my musician friends, this really is a tough time, and we've all lost work. So I remember when 9/11 happened, how much that impacted musicians, and this I think is probably bound to impact us all on a much greater scale yet. So there's a lot of fear and uncertainty. Um, but I think what I want to say to musicians and friends is, guys, we may not. Our income can be taken from us. Most everything in our life can be taken from us. The one thing people can't take from us is our music. And so I think the best thing we can do right now is to make music, to create music. People, whatever you have, use that to make music and use it to impact others. I'd love to see more collaborations come out of this time. I'd love to see more us get back to collaborating. Our genre was built on collaborations. That's all these different this styles kind of converging into this one genre. And I think that as the industry has become more the business side has become more difficult in the last 10, 15 years, we often have a natural tendency to just kind of, okay, what am I going to do? I need to take care of myself. And of course we have to do that. But sometimes I think maybe over the last decade and a half, maybe we've lost sight of the collaborative aspect of music and how greatly that shaped our genre. And so I think that's something that can really help our genre and really impact others at this time. And then the other thing is just to people in general, we're surrounded by we have a lot of input. Media from all angles telling us what is and what isn't, and this is happening, or we think this is happening, or this is real, or this is fake. And it's really easy for us to get caught up in reacting. But I think the thing that we can do to really make a difference is just take a look at our lives. What can we do in our daily life to reach and touch those around us in real life, to help others, to encourage others, to lift others up? And often in helping others, it brings the greatest encouragement to ourselves too, and it helps us through what we're going through. So let's use social media, let's use music to lift others up. Oftentimes people will ask me my opinions on things, and they want to tear people down, and they want to get deep into politics, and those subject matters are important. But what's more important is that in real life that we're impacting others. And so anyway, I guess hang in there, guys. We're all in this together, and I often say on my posts, thoughts and prayers to everyone, and I mean that. I'm not just saying it. If I've ever said that I'm thinking and praying for my friends, you can be assured that I took time to think and to pray for you. And so hang in there, guys, and big love to all of you.
Everybody, how about a big virtual round of applause for our friend and producer, Darrin Ron. Darrin, thank you so much for coming on my little beginning of a show here that I have going on, and I'm very grateful to you. Thanks for sharing the positivity and focusing on the common ground. And so we'll let you get back to tell your family we said hello, and God bless you. And I'm going to play a couple more songs. And if everybody's enjoying this, please share this to your timeline, and let's have enjoy some music and uplift each other. Thank you so much, Darrin. God bless.
Thanks for having me, Patrick. Thanks. I'm gonna hang and listen to you play. And thanks so much for having me.
You bet. This next song is called Grandma's Hands. you so much. That goes out to Bill Withers. That's called Grandma's Hands. I'm going to do one more song for you. This is produced by Mr. Darrin Ron. Thank you so much for being on the show. This is called Limitless. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in to my little daytime, nighttime show. It's just sending my blessings out to you. Joy and happiness to all of you. Thank you so much. Really, really, really appreciate you so much for just being here today. And thank you to Darrin Ron for shedding some light on some positivity. Thank you so much, brother. And everybody who's, we're in this together. So God bless you guys. And good night to you. And I hope to see you tomorrow night.
It sure is fun. I know that.
This is where the party at.
Patches is walking on a patch